Forming disciples. At Mary Immaculate Parish, our goal is forming disciples committed to their faith and their community. The PGP is an opportunity for young people to grow in their commitment to their community and in their service to those most in need. There are 7 areas of ministry selected by the Diocese of Tijuana as priorities for the PGP. Mental health. Eduardo Lopez is our in-house psychologist. He's also the director of the mental health program. Diana coordinates our children's psychology program. Over the last few years, there has been a rise in depression, anxiety, and suicide attempts. This is due to COVID, lack of support, mental illness, isolation, and dysfunctional families. A few years ago, a young boy named David lost his vision. He lived in a family of drug abuse and poverty. After his last surgery, he was told that he would never recover his sight. His situation led him to a few suicide attempts. Eduardo, the psychologist, and his team were consistent in their intervention and support. After a few sessions, David was able to accept his reality and became mentally stable and even strong. Our mental health program helps over 350 people every month through individual counseling, group therapy, and mental health presentations. Outreach to migrants. Adriana is the director of our migrant program. Every month, we serve over 100 migrant families with food baskets, medication, and legal aid. Thanks to our legal aid program, many migrants are able to receive temporary or even permanent residence here in Mexico. This helps them to obtain a decent job and provide for their families. Liliana is a perfect example of the benefits of our program. Liliana and her family came from Guatemala, escaping violence and poverty. After an attempt to cross into the U.S. illegally, they were deported back to Mexico. In Mexico, they were connected with a legal aid program in the migrant program, where they received shelter, medication, food, and legal aid. They were able to receive temporary resident card in Mexico, which allowed them to have decent jobs, send their children to school, and Liliana is now becoming a teacher. However, they receive a notice that their temporary residency is about to expire. If they don't get a permanent resident status, they will be deported back to Guatemala and all will be lost. Our lawyers are working hard to make sure that Liliana and her family are able to obtain the permanent resident card and stay in Mexico. Our legal aid program helps many people by providing free legal services to all the migrants. Outreach to the poor. Luis Cepeda is a civil engineer and responsible for our roofs program. Every year, over 25 roofs are built for the poorest families in our community. During the rainy season, many families are forced to live in wet houses and sleep in wet mattresses. David Rizzo and his team visit 4 families in our community. Over the years, they provided hundreds of food baskets to the poorest families. They clean the houses of the elderly, bathe the sick, and even donate blood for those who need a blood transfusion. David understands the pain and challenges of poverty. David comes from a very poor family where he was expected to drop out of school to help provide for the family. He believed that his only option in life was to become a gang member. Nevertheless, thanks to the support and guidance of the people from the parish, David was able to go to college and become a licensed psychologist. Now David continues to help the poor and the most abandoned in our community. Health program. Jocelyn Robledo is the director of our health program. She was the first medical doctor to graduate from our scholarship program. Now we have 4 doctors who have graduated thanks to the scholarship program. Nadia is a registered nurse who also graduated thanks to the scholarship program. These ladies, together with 2 doctors, visit the sick in our community, especially those that don't have health insurance or don't have the resources to buy the medication. Many times, they reach people that are dying in their houses. Every month, they visit over 300 people who desperately need medical attention. Jocelyn one day visited Virginia, who's 73 years old. Virginia was abandoned by her family and lives alone. When she arrived at Virginia's house, Virginia was unconscious and turning purple. Jocelyn called 911 and immediately went to pick up an oxygen tank. She was able to give Virginia the oxygen she needed, and her life was saved. This program is saving the lives of many people. Grief Ministry. Mildred Juarez is a licensed psychologist who directs our Grief Ministry program. Her and Susana Ramirez have a program for those who are grieving due to the loss of a loved one. Such is the story of Alondra Vega. Alondra lost 2 of her siblings, one after the other, and became depressed. She stopped going to church because she was angry at God. Many times she asked God to take her life. She did not want to live anymore. One day, her husband convinced her to go to church. At Mass, they announced the Grief Ministry program. Her husband encouraged Alondra to go to the sessions. At first, Alondra went with a closed heart and with a lot of anger, but soon she was able to receive the healing from Christ and is now going to church again and ready to serve in our community. To those that are excluded, Adriana is the principal of our school for children with special needs. Chesida Angulo is one of the teachers there. Our school was open because one day an Obli visited a family who had a young boy with Down syndrome tied up with food on the ground. This young boy was treated worse than an animal because the family did not know how to take care of him. Our school for children with special needs gives families the skills necessary to care for their children and gives the children the skills necessary to thrive in their lives. At our program, we have speech therapists, psychologists, social workers, physical education instructor, and many people willing to help the families and the children. We are working in other programs to support those that are excluded in society. Youth Ministry. Luis Herrera is the director of youth ministry and coordinator of the Search Ministry Retreat. Every year we have 4 retreats at our parish. Every retreat, over 300 young men and women attend. Their lives are transformed and they stay and they serve in our community. We have hundreds of young men and women committed to our parish and committed to our community, wanting to be disciples of Christ. Such was the story of Manuel Palafox. Manuel had not attended church in many years. Him and his family stopped going to church. After Manuel left the retreat, he was transformed and became very active in the church. He then invited his mother and father and siblings, and now the entire family are working here at our parish. Arturo coordinates the outreach for the adolescents. Paola Castro is the coordinator of our scholarship program. Yair Langarica is the director of our vocations ministry. Thanks to our vocation ministry program, we currently have 11 young men in seminary with the missionary oblates of Mary Immaculate. It is amazing to see the way the lives of these young people are being transformed. They are now professionals that are giving back to their community. That is the way to get people out of poverty, to really help them with their education and then inspire them to give back. The lives of the people of this community are being transformed with so many new professionals. None of this would have been possible without the help of so many donors. We are so grateful for your help, for your prayers, and for your support. May God bless you and your families.